Well, the haters gonna hate, 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 and the fakers gonna fake, 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 baby. I'm just gonna make, making luck, a mini podcast.
Welcome to Making Luck, a twice daily podcast.
Twice daily podcast.
Yeah,
Well, I guess if you listen to 2 episodes every day,
that's right.
starting at 1, then it would take you like 11 weeks to.
We could have said I could have said twice weekly, and then it would have taken like a year. But it's okay, Adam. They're listening to this far in the future.
It's 2022. Everyone binges everything.
In the year 2384, and there are 10,382 episodes of this. So.
Wow, that's so many. I'm glad I lived that long. First of all.
Oh, well, no, we're only on 120 of them.
Oh, well, at least I passed things on to the next person, and I'm sure the same standard of quality was met. Also, if you're listening to this in the year 2384, was it? 2384, you'll be pleased to know that since the last episode of this podcast, I fixed that HTTPS issue that was causing some web players to not play the podcast links directly. And then also, in a couple of months, the podcast isn't going to just disappear because I didn't do this. So you're welcome from the past.
Who's watching this on a web player that's not YouTube?
The Apple Podcast website and the Google Play Podcasts website both have integrated web players. See, you have to podcasts. Apple and Google think that they should be the curators of all that is podcast. So if you want to use their podcast app, every podcast you listen to has to be specifically registered with. So I had to go register Making Luck with them, and they had to decide if it was okay to put on their thing. And in the process of doing that, then they make this little nice web page for you, and you can click a button and play this episode, or you can play this episode, and a little slider comes up.
Can I tell you how many podcasts I've listened to where they tell you to leave a review on Apple, a rating, a review, a 5-star.
Yeah.
It's always 5-star on Apple Podcasts. Even if you don't listen on Apple Podcasts, you need to do something on Apple Podcasts because that'll help our rankings, and that'll let other people help other people find the show. So even if you don't listen there, that's where you need to do your review. Okay. And I'm like, so who cares? No, I'm not going to do that.
So I just want you to know, listener, if you want to leave a review on wherever you're listening or wherever you're not listening, or wherever nobody listens, feel free to do that. And the rating that you give, if you give a rating, should be the rating that you feel is appropriate and that would make you feel good about giving a rating.
Give it that 2-star review.
I mean, if that's what you think is right, go for it.
Nobody ever gives 2 stars on a 5-star rating scale.
Yeah, stars are dumb.
No, but seriously, people give 5 stars. Sometimes people give 4 stars. Sometimes people give 1 star because they don't realize that sometimes you can give 0 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, people will give 3 stars to say oh, it was fine. Or some people are 3 stars is average, even though on a 5-star scale, pretty much 4.8 stars is average because there's this artificial pressure to make everything 5-star, and if it's 5,
and then there's
not
all the bots that give it 5 stars. Yeah.
But nobody ever gives 2 stars. If it's bad enough to be 2 stars, people give it 1 or 0.
Yeah, and you can choose to either continue that trend or break that trend.
It's like the 7 key on a microwave. Nobody ever uses it.
Welcome to Making Luck, a 7 key on a microwave podcast. My name is Adam, and this is Wandering Winder. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I've missed this.
I've been, I can tell. I feel it just bursting out at the slightest provocation.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're here. It's been a while, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's probably gonna be a while to the next episode. But we made it, and yes.
I don't know if you know, but there's supposed to be another 2nd edition coming out within the next few months.
Yeah, and around that same time, from what I've heard, there's going to be a whole nother expansion. But
Whoa,
we
you're
don't.
gonna have to
We
edit
don't.
that out because I don't think that's public knowledge.
That's public knowledge.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
whatever. I just don't follow Dominion news anymore. Cool.
Yeah. So there's going to be some more stuff later this year, and there's a small chance. There's a non-zero chance that I'll be alive to podcast about it, and maybe you want to hear that.
Hopefully, it's not a small non-zero chance.
Well, I mean, the probability is between 0 and 1, and by a lot of scales, 1 is a pretty small number, so anyway.
But do those scales measure probability? I mean, we probably don't have time for that tangent.
Yeah, I guess, so we have the Seaside and Prosperity 2nd editions, and there's like 18 or something new cards, and we're going to talk about them.
Yeah.
And I've been recording for 15 minutes, and we haven't started yet. So
that's right.
Getting all this done in an hour... That seems a little ambitious.
It will not happen, but we should probably move so that I, don't have a headache by the time I go to bed.
I suppose. That seems smart. So, yeah, there's, this is a lot like the Base and Intrigue 2nd editions, but I think the notable thing about Seaside and Prosperity is this is the first time that we're seeing cards removed from these sets for reasons other than they just aren't powerful enough to see play. So...
I think that was always the story, was supposedly, it's not just that they're weak, it's that they're, because it wasn't exactly the weakest cards that got removed. Like Woodcutter was better than Spy.
And I don't know what better means, but...
Well, whatever. But the point is, like, it wasn't just about it being weak, it was about it being, like, not meaningful and not fun and boring. But in practice, it was mostly that it was weak.
Sure, and yes, I don't know what powerful or weak or any of that means because there isn't a definition that holds water.
Were you just saying that that it's the first time that cards weren't removed for being weak?
Yeah, but see, on my notes it was in quotation marks, so that kind of I didn't do the air quotes.
Oh my
gosh!
I should
have. Yeah,
I couldn't hear the air quotes.
I know, that's my mistake. Next time I'll make the air quotes a little more audible. For you and for the listener.
You would have to say it like, this is the first time we're seeing cards removed for reasons other than they aren't powerful enough to see play.
Yeah.
Like that?
So, for example, like powerful attacks or reworks of cards that saw play.
Whatever saw play means.
Yeah, whatever that actually means. Because, like, I've bought every single card in Dominion, actually, with a couple of exceptions that we're going to talk about.
Every card pre-adventures I have seen pile, and well, most of them post-adventures too. But like,
wait, hold on. I've never seen Outpost pile.
Oh, I've seen Outpost pile.
Did you do it just for the lulz?
No, it was. It was like quite a long time. I think it was like a Swindler game maybe, and like they were bad, so people just like it got towards the end, and people didn't want to give duchies because the points mattered, and it was just like outposts turning into outposts, or so. I don't remember really. But like I've recently piled tacticians. Recently, like within the last year.
Impressive.
Yeah. Anyway.
So we're gonna talk about the new cards. We're gonna talk about the cards that are leaving, and I've played some games with these cards since they were released. It's been like a month and a half or something like that. So if I haven't played that many games with the cards, I'll certainly say so. But this isn't like the same kind of temperature of take that the last episode with the Allies hot takes were on. Yeah. So you want to talk about some cards?
Sure. Yes. And just as a note, I've also played at least one game, I think, with all of these cards. More with some, less with others. Generally more with the Seaside ones. I think they've been out like a month longer or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So the first card we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about a lot of the Seaside ones first. The first one is Blockade. It's a 4-cost action duration attack. It says gain a card costing up to 4, setting it aside. At the start of your next turn, put it into your hand. While it's set aside, when another player gains a copy of it on their turn, they gain a curse. And this is sort of a rework of Embargo. Embargo's being removed. when there is a direct replacement, we're going to call it out, and actually a lot of them seem to have pretty direct replacements.
Yeah.
Donald X did say that he didn't want tokens in the second edition for just one card, and Embargo was a card that needed its own token, so it's gone. It's been reworked.
Yeah.
I gave this a 7 out of 10, and Wandering Winder gave this a 4 out of 10, so we're starting with a spicy one.
Yeah.
I think this is better than you do. Yeah?
Yeah.
And,
go ahead. So I do want to note, it does say when another player gains a copy of it on their turn. That's important. I have seen people think they were getting clever and like try to messenger 2 copies of the same. Like, oh, I play a Blockade and I'm gonna gain, whatever, a silver, and then I'm gonna messenger us both silvers, and you'll take a curse, and it doesn't work like that because it's not on their turn.
Yeah, I can't Blockade a curse and then play a witch on you, and then you get all the curses.
2 curses.
That doesn't, or all the curses. Doesn't work that way.
Oh yeah, it doesn't work either of those ways.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It's probably fortunate because you wouldn't want it to like autopile the curses.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. So, my rating that I gave this card was higher.
Yeah.
Than yours, and we did a little bit of talking, and it seems like I think Workshops, the Workshop family is worth a higher number than you do for the most part.
Yeah, Workshop sucks.
I mean, I certainly don't think it sucks. I think Workshop is a fine card.
No, it's fine, but it doesn't excite me. It's like, does this really change the complexion of the game? And I think the answer is, for most Workshops, not very often, with some exceptions, but I don't think this is one of them.
I certainly think that Workshop changes the complexion, just regular Workshop. I certainly think that changes the complexion of the game a not insignificant amount of the time.
Does it make it like rosier, or I'm trying to make like a makeup complexion joke, but I never worn makeup, so I don't.
Yeah, it's like mascara.
Does mascara affect complexion? I thought that was more like complexion.
Well, that's
skin
eyelashes.
Tone and yeah.
Okay, fine, rosier. In any case, I dug up some old ratings that were made years ago.
Hot.
For the card Armory, we both gave that a 4 out of 10. But I'm looking at that and I'm like, why did I give Armory a 4 out of 10? That's a 5 or a 6. And you probably stand behind the 4.
No,
the interesting one.
So I do think this card is better than Armory.
I definitely think it's better than Armory. It's almost strictly better.
I don't think it's a lot better than Armory, but it's not strictly. So one of the things about this card. One of the things about this card is that you can't do gain and play on the same turn with it.
Mm-hmm. That's the main thing Armory has over this.
You also can't play this every turn.
That's the other main. That's like the other thing. I don't know of anything else that Armory has on this card.
You can't use this to set up a 4 cost for your chariot races.
Oh yeah, but okay. I was thinking like you trashed a Squire and you didn't want to gain anything, but now you have to gain Blockade if it's the
That's
only
right.
attack.
Yeah. Ha.
All right. We're gonna do this for every card, aren't we?
No. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the other one that you were going to point out is that I gave Embargo a 4 and you gave it a 3. And so I think I would probably give Armory a 3 now, and I would give Embargo a 2 or a 3, and I'm giving this a 4, and maybe this could be a 5. But it's like, I don't think this is special. I don't like Workshops. They only gain something costing up to 4, which is fine, and sometimes that's good. But the other thing, so the 2 things that make this different from Armory, or that could make this worse than Armory, which I don't think it is in general. I think it's better. But the 2 things that could make it... Oh, this is the third thing. It lets your opponent pile out on the curses easier.
Yeah.
Wow, I should really stop edge casing. Edge cased with Wandering Winter. I'll remember that segment.
It's been a while, and Wandering Winter's really excited to be on the podcast. Can you tell?
I just want to say I am very sad about losing Embargo. It's not a good card, but it's one of my favorite cards.
Yeah.
I would have been sad, but it was just replaced with a better version. Like, better mechanically. Like, it doesn't need a token. It actually matters.
Well, okay.
I like the tokens. I love the tokens, man.
I mean, the token is
Jake,
in terms of, like, board
you don't
game
have
production.
to play. You don't have to play with the card to put the tokens in your mouth.
I know, but I still want to.
But it tastes better when you do?
Yeah, it always tastes better when you do. Also, I mean, to be
If the token hasn't touched cardboard, is it
Yeah.
really even...
Is it actually a token? That's just a piece of metal at that point.
Jake, I want you to know that when I bought your set of allies, because I still buy you a copy of every expansion to Dominion, I still do that.
I appreciate it.
And it's yours whenever you say you want it, but it came with a little plastic bag full of coin tokens. They're the same coin tokens as before, but you get some more because there's allies. And I don't think I even opened that bag for your set, so like you could have some fresh.
But they won't have
tokens.
touched cardboard.
Not
I
yet.
mean,
but
he can do like a before and after taste test.
Oh.
Yeah, to see how it does it. It'll depend if I won the game or not. That's kind of how the tokens will taste.
Now I'm trying to remember what coin token cards are in allies.
The allies.
Oh,
All
the
of
allies, because the favors
Yeah.
are the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm reading Blockade, and yes, I understand.
It's so much worse.
What do you mean?
Well, it's
Not like
it's
from
different.
a strength perspective.
Yeah, I actually. So I think there are merits to saying it's a bit worse from a strength perspective, even in certain cases, because like.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there are cases where Philosopher's Stone is better than King's Court, but
yeah.
But there definitely are.
True. Well, but I'm saying like the whole like self-trashing silver thing, or more importantly the 2-cost silver thing, was like a big part of the reason you sometimes. But I don't know. I guess that's not a good reason to have a card in the game.
If that's the reason that you buy the card, I think the card has failed from a design standpoint.
I think the reason to keep embargo is because you get to say embargo.
That's a great reason, and
that's a pretty good reason, to be honest with you.
I also I don't like this. Doesn't have the same, I guess, flair of embargo in terms of like this feels like a very watered down version of embargo. And I get that it's stronger. It's got a workshop effect, but like you
can't embargo provinces or duchies, which I think was kind of cool, but like you can't get around this.
You can with cost reduction.
Yeah, you can't get around it, but it's only.
Wait, what?
So,
how do you get around blockade with cost reduction?
No, you can.
If I blockade a thing, you're gonna get a curse if you get one. At the end.
You said you can't embargo provinces or duchies, you can't blockade provinces.
And also you could exile to get around blockade. Never mind. There's always
something embargo does that is very rare in Dominion, as an effect, and basically nothing else in Dominion did this as like worked this way. Until embargo. Well, it's this card that you play one time. You just draw it and play it once, and it has a permanent effect on the rest of the game. And like, yeah, I get like literally everything you do has a permanent effect on the. Shut up. But I'm saying like,
wow,
you do this.
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, you buy this embargo and you shuffle it in and you play it one time, and you've made this visible permanent mark on the board. And like, I get that it isn't always the tactically best option, but sometimes it is, and those games feel awesome. But like, not many things in Dominion work that way, because Blockade.
If only there wasn't like a cube that you could put on the board that changed the effect of the game that you could only get once per game.
Well, I get that. I mean, I'm just saying, like, Blockade, it feels like a lot of other
scrying pool.
That's true. It feels like a lot of other Dominion cards in that you are rewarded for for building a deck that just like draws and plays this very often and plays a lot of it. And like Embargo didn't play by those rules the way a lot of action cards tend to. And like I liked that about Embargo, and Blockade just feels
Like
watered down. It's just it feels like a workshop with like a
tiny
little
twist,
half-blasted attack on it. Like I don't know. I get the attack is actually very significant, I'm sure.
I haven't actually found it to be very significant in the like 3 games that I've played it with. We should save this for the podcast.
No, this is going on the podcast. Like,
well,
I'm just gonna edit it in.
Oh,
I mean,
it's gonna be super awkward.
I'm not being analytical. I'm being emotional and opinionated. And I loved Embargo. I unapologetically loved Embargo. I miss it. Blockade doesn't tickle the same spots.
Like there was a game with Blockade where it was like, oh, well, I need to get a village, so I'm gonna take this village green. And so then it was my turn. It was like, oh, well, I also need a village. I don't want to take a curse, but I'll just take a village, like the card village.
Yeah.
The village was there. And like, okay, that's different, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, right. And what if it had mattered? Because like if it had mattered, that would have
felt random.
Yeah, you know what we need more of? More first player advantage. Yeah, that's.
Well, I mean, it wasn't even. I don't know. I don't even remember who was first, but it was just like kind of that early game thing before you're drawing your deck. Like randomly, whose militia lines up against your good hand versus the militia that I just discarded 2 estates.
Yeah, no.
I don't buy any of this. I think I disagree with the entire last 2 minutes of what you guys were saying. First of all, you're never going to blockade someone's actually good hand because you can only blockade a card that costs up to 4. So you can just get it if it's early. You can just get it on the turn that they don't have it blockaded. And if it's not early, then you have other ways of playing around it.
No,
they need 2 blockades to lock you out of it every single turn. So if you can get 2 blockades up before them, then you have something a little more potent. Yeah. Or if it matters that much to you, just gain the curses and trash them. Like,
I think most of our disagreement is that you think workshops are better than I do.
I think some of it is there, but I think the blockade specific. I certainly think the attack. I think we've both expressed our opinions and we've highlighted the disagreement here.
Yeah.
And I think I'm right, and yeah.
And I know you're wrong.
Sure.
And
your rating is currently higher than me on the leaderboard, so yeah, can't argue with that.
Well, you can't argue with that. I mean, I guess. I mean, no, I don't. See, but I reject that as an argument.
I was being sarcastic.
Okay, great.
So anyway, the next one is Sea Witch.
There are people who would actually use that as an argument.
I know. I was making fun of them implicitly.
Oh, nice. It was a very dry satire.
It's kind of my thing, yeah.
Sea Witch.
Yeah, I see a witch.
Oh,
right
that's
there.
See, I was gonna say
she's wet.
So they've made Witch and Young Witch and Old Witch. Now they're making Sea Witch. When are they gonna make Bee Witch? Or A Witch or D Witch?
I mean, I could see Bewitch as like BEWIT. Like yeah, I could see that.
Bewitched, like the classic television program.
No, the verb.
Well,
not the gerund.
Gerund.
Or not the gerund. That's ing. Dang it.
No, they're
the past participle.
Aren't they both? I didn't think I thought gerunds were also. Anyway.
Do you want to read the card?
Welcome to Making Luck, a gerund podcast. So Sea
The
Witch.
Making of the Luck, a gerund podcast.
Making Lucking, a gerund. Okay.
I win this one. Leave a comment in the comment section.
Sea Witch. It's a 5-cost action duration attack. So that's 3 types. It's orange. And it says +2 cards. Each other player gains a curse. And then at the start of your next turn, +2 cards, then discard 2 cards.
Sick.
So it's a witch this turn that throws you in the dungeon next turn.
Yeah. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, and I gave Witch a 9 out of 10, and I think this is almost exactly the same card.
I think this is weaker than Witch.
I agree. But like very slightly.
Pretty marginally. And I think I think they're more different, but so this one, the attack on this hurts less badly because you're going to play it less often.
Yeah, I think that outweighs the fact that like, oh, it's Witch, but it does another thing, but also like it misses more shuffles, and that's
it misses
super
like
duper
every
matters.
shuffle.
Yeah.
But then you can just like get another one because they're going to alternate, and then you're going to be pretty reliable. So like it hurts less, but it does more for you. So the games compared to the games with Witch, I think games with this will be faster.
Probably,
for instance. Because the attack hurts less and it does more for you. And I think it's weaker than Witch, but not enough to be like a number different.
Yeah. I've said all I want to say about Sea Witch.
I've said all I want to say about Sea Witch, except should we talk about the card that it's replacing?
Yeah, and I have some emotions.
Yeah. I'll let you take this, Adam.
Yeah. So collect myself. This is replacing Seahag, and if I'm using my brain, I know that Seahag was not a very popular card, and I know, sorry, and I know that, you know, the game is probably better with Sea Witch in it rather than Seahag, but I'm gonna miss Seahag. You know, I'm gonna miss that tantalizing artwork that is distracting in much the same way that the artwork for Mastermind is distracting to me. I'm gonna miss that pink hair with that purple headband. I'm gonna miss all of those free wins I got against people who opened Seahag when there was halfway decent trashing on the board, and then I just steamroll them. I'm gonna miss my formerly internet friend, but now real friend, who dyed her hair the same color as Seahag, and not just to be like Seahag, probably because it's just a really cool color to dye your hair. Actually, I don't think... I'm not gonna miss the friend, because we're still gonna talk. And I don't think she's dead since the last time I talked. But you know what I mean?
The printing of this card killed Adam's... Is that what you're trying to say?
The removal of Seahag from Dominion canon potentially has killed my friend. I cannot confirm that she is alive right now. I guess I can't do that either. I don't know, and not knowing really hurts, to be honest with you. I understand.
Seahag.
Schrodinger's Seahag. So I'm gonna miss a lot of the memories I had with this card. I really truly am, and like, yes, I understand that if I use my brain, it's good for the game, and there are a lot of reasons why this card shouldn't be around. But like, I'm gonna miss you.
So if we can't have a Seahag, could I interest you in a Sea chart?
Ooh. Potentially. What does Sea chart do?
It's a 3-cost action card, and it says, +1 card, +1 action, reveal the top card of your deck. Put it into your hand if you have a copy of it in play. That's it. That's
Sick.
The card.
Yeah, and this replaces Pearl Diver, and I think the main thing is the patron synergy, right? I mean, Pearl Diver says look at, and Sea Chart says reveal, and that's why Sea Chart costs $1 more.
Yes, that's definitely why.
Yeah, I mean, Pearl Diver was removed because it didn't really matter.
Do anything?
I've played a lot of games of Dominion, and there was one game of Dominion where I thought the ability on Pearl Diver could be of like meaningful strategic significance. However, I realized it after the game was over, when the game had been decided without the strategic significance of Pearl Diver.
Nice. I think Pearl Diver was a do-nothing, and like, you did gain, a shaving of a percentage point by having it in your deck when it was better than nothing. I mean, there are a few cases where it's like, oh, it's a cantrip and I can stick pathfinding on it or something, right?
Yeah.
But whatever, that wasn't about it being Pearl Diver. That was about it being just a random 2-cost cantrip.
Right, and that's what I was talking about, like the whole look at the bottom business.
Right. So the look at the bottom stuff, like, I think, like, yeah, it gave you, a shaving of a percentage point or something when you would play it over nothing. Because, like, oh, well, if the bottom card was an action card that I needed to draw and I played 3 of these, then I didn't dud.
Woo!
The half of a quarter of a percent of a time that happened. Great.
Nice. C chart seems like it matters just a touch more.
Yeah? Oh yeah, for sure. But I still don't think it matters a lot.
So I gave this a 6 out of 10.
I gave it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I think
and I mean, I tend to agree with you. The extra card that this draws is not going to happen very often. Certainly less than half the time out of all the times you play C chart. But like, I don't know, when you have the magical C chart deck with like 5 C charts and maybe some other cards, lots of non-terminals that you're okay playing in the middle of your turn or whatever, like, yeah, sure. I mean, this could draw like a card maybe once in 3 plays, once in 4 plays, I guess.
Yeah, like I played a game against somebody who had like 8 of these, and it drew him a few cards a turn.
I definitely have had the experience where I got absolutely bodied because I didn't go for C chart, I didn't respect it, and they got 10 of them.
Yeah.
And their deck drew cards more than mine did, and like drawing cards is super great. So like you do have to respect this.
To an extent.
But like
But like if there's another way to draw, like almost any other way to draw.
Yeah.
It's just like what are we doing with? Because the thing is, and maybe this is like, oh, you like workshops more than me. Like you need a lot of these before you start to reliably draw any decent number of cards on a turn, right? Like,
either that or you need like storyteller or something, like some very specific synergy that gets you treasures in play.
Like, oh, yeah. But like, do I really want to put in the energy to get 6 of these? I mean, sometimes I guess, but mostly I think it's just going to be like, oh, it's a nice little bonus when I can pick one up on the cheap.
I think if there's like a workshop, which I know you hate, but if there is one of those around and you see your opponent start to go for them, then like, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to make sure they don't get 10 of them. And I think you're both going to have these.
Or you just like do something better. Like, sure, they get 10, but by the time they get 10, I have 5 provinces.
I guess, but like, I guess that's an option, but like
sometimes. I mean, it depends on the
workshop
board.
gains where you're drawing cards don't seem to have a big effect in my mind of how fast you're going to get to 5 provinces.
No, I'm saying like I'm not getting the workshop, so I'm not spending a gain on that. I'm not spending gains getting these, so like I'm doing something else. If the something else I'm doing is fast enough relative to how fast, like if there isn't an efficient way to gain a lot of these, it takes like if they spent 4 turns taking these.
Yeah, like if your opponent just gets all 10 secret passages where like it doesn't matter just to get the tower points, and you have 5 provinces. Was
that a game you played today?
It is. You were watching it.
Well, I was kind of watching. Like
you were spectating. I said, "Hey, brah," and
I was sitting in the table, but like I was doing something else. So like I looked over at the end and was like, "Oh, there were 10 tower points." Like I noticed that you were like you had 5 provinces and they had none.
And they had like 8 secret passages, yeah.
Right. And I think this card is probably better than Secret Passage. I don't know what I gave Secret Passage. I don't like Secret Passage. People love Secret Passage. I'm like, that card doesn't do anything.
Secret Passage has a lot more specific synergies than this one does.
Although, I think one of the specific synergies of Secret Passage is the card that I think C-Chart compares most to, which is Wishing Well.
Or
this card is kind of a lot like Wishing Well.
Or Secret Passage has synergy with C-Chart.
hot.
Yeah.
Another reason why this compares to Wishing Well. Should we move on?
Yeah, sure. Next is Pirate. It is a 5-cost action, duration, reaction. It says at the start of your next turn, gain a treasure costing up to 6 to your hand. And then the reaction part is when any player gains a treasure, you may play this from your hand. So, like, if your opponent gains a treasure on their turn, and you're holding a pirate, you get to play it on their turn, and then like you get the treasure in your hand at the start of your turn. So it kind of speeds you up if you react to your opponent gaining a treasure.
Very similar to like how when you react to Caravan Guard, it speeds you up.
Also, it is terminal, and so if you gain, if they gain a treasure and you get to play it, you didn't have to spend an action where Caravan Guard just wastes the action. But also, like, you can react to your own treasures that you gain as well, including a pirate from a previous turn. So, like, pirate, it does have that sometimes non-terminal thing going on.
Right.
You just have to wait a turn to get the treasure to your hand, but you can just always get a gold. This thing replaces Explorer.
Yeah.
I think this is... I think Explorer was a fine card.
I think Explorer was a fine card.
Yeah. And I think Pirate is much better. I gave Pirate a 5 out of 10. I'm looking at that and I'm like, I should give this a 6 out of 10.
I think Pirate is somewhat better, but not like a ton better. I just don't think that... I mean, this was the same problem Explorer had. I don't think that, like, this is the fiver I want most of the time. Sometimes it will be, but just with the quality of all the other fivers that are around, like, oh, do I really want to, like, spend a turn gaining a gold? And it can gain things other than golds, right? It can gain almost any treasure in the game if you have the right cost reduction.
But no Philosopher's Stone, rip.
Or there's one other treasure it can't gain, which is Fortune.
Fortune.
Yeah.
Well, I think both this and Explorer are very efficient ways to gain payload. So like they gain treasures, which is good in a money density deck. Like
sure.
It's just solid.
And that's where I think this card mostly shines, is in that kind of money density deck.
And you probably feel that way about Explorer too, don't you?
Mostly. Although sometimes for Explorer it's just, and this will probably be true for Pirate as well, like I'm drawing my deck and I need to be able to just jam more and more payload into my deck. And like, so something like, yield card that gains a treasure every turn. Well, in the abstract, like you'd rather have, I don't know, like a Butcher or something. Sometimes Butcher's not there.
I don't understand the abstract comparison you're making. I think Pirate and Explorer are both very efficient ways to do it. I think they're, in terms of gaining payload, they're some of the best cards out there for doing that.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what that means. I guess my point is just like, I would tend to rather have some payload that isn't treasures more than payload that is.
I see. That's something that confuses me. So many people think that virtual payload, meaning payload that happens in your action phase, so most of the time that means non-treasure payload. Yeah. So many people think that is inherently better than treasure payload.
I don't think that.
You need a reason for it to be better, is what I'm saying.
So here's the difference. It's not about it being a treasure. So the way I said that is probably just a bit of a misnomer. But it's about it being a stop card. So, like, if I could get a Peddler or a Grand Market or something, card that is card neutral in my deck and gives me some payload, I'm going to tend to prefer that. Or just some, oh my gosh, it's amazing payload that's, like,
Platinum.
Completely bananas. Like, sure, Platinum maybe, or
that's
like
pretty bananas.
Bridge, right? Because I'm going to play 4 bridges and then, like, the game's over, right? Or...
You just described situations that I think, so like I would prefer Peddler Grand Market when draw is either non-existent or difficult.
Oh.
And if that's not the case, if I can draw cards, like, yes, give me gold. I would prefer gold to peddler, and I would Grand Market is different, but like I would definitely prefer gold to peddler if drawing cards is easy to do. And then the other one about bridge, like, I mean, pirate is non-terminal basically whenever it's good. So like
I think that's flipped around. So like I prefer peddler to gold when you're trying to draw. Well, I don't know whether I would or not, but it depends on the costs and all that.
What I said wasn't when you're trying to draw. What I said was when draw is easy to do. So I'm talking about like village plus smithy kind of draw, as opposed to like caravan only type of draw. You know what I mean?
Sure. Like if I'm just playing in a money density deck, gold is like always going to be better than peddler, right?
Mostly, yeah, I would say.
I mean,
seems
not
very
strictly,
likely.
Not strictly always. You're going to be able to find some edge case, but like pretty much always.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess the thing is like if draw is plentiful, then sure I can just add golds or whatever.
Yeah.
But at some point, like I'm going to keep having to add the draw so that I can draw those, right?
Mm-hmm. But
So,
that's
like,
easy to do. That was the assumption I made.
Sure, but like, is it easier to gain a village and a smithy and a gold, or is it easier to gain 3 peddlers? I don't know.
I mean, it's village smithy and 2 golds versus 4 peddlers,
6 peddlers,
55 peddlers.
Well, I mean, it depends. It's all very situational, right?
Pirate really tips the scale towards village smithy and 2 golds, right?
I mean, I guess because you don't have to get the golds, you just get like a pirate or 2, and then you're set,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so
so
good.
maybe I don't know. It depends.
Yeah. Anyway,
let's move on.
Next one. Corsair. Corsair is a 5-cost action duration attack. Gives you plus $2, and it says at the start of your next turn, plus 1 card. Until then, each other player trashes the first silver or gold they play each turn. And this replaces Pirate Ship. It's a card that needed a unique token to Seaside. Now there's no coin tokens in Seaside anymore, so Pirate Ship needed to go. Also, Pirate Ship was not the most popular
bad
card.
Design?
I suppose. I mean, I really enjoyed the games where Pirate Ship was good in 2 players, because I was much better at finding those than a lot of people, and I got some fun wins doing that. But in games with more than 2 players, like, Pirate Ship is just not a fun thing to have in the game. So I certainly think it's...
It had the weird combination of being terrible and also creating the impression that it was oppressively strong.
It's one of those things that, like, if I'm against a bunch of other people in a multiplayer game that are all buying duchies and 3-piling,
right?
Chances are that's going to be the winning strat because so many people are doing it.
Yeah.
And that means duchy's really good in those games.
What about like a 6-player game with swindlers?
I know where the resign button is, so I know how to win those games. So anyway, Corsair, I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Okay, I gave it a 3 out of 10.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, but I want to go back for a second. So, I knew a pirate once. Wasn't a really very nice guy. He had a bit of a coarse air about him. It is a big difference.
It's a big difference. I think this might be like a difference in the way that we rate cards. That's kind of my guess as to where this difference is coming from.
I think we probably tend to agree that there are going to be a decent number of games where this isn't that important because, like, you're doing other stuff at 5, and the silvers and the golds aren't that important.
I'm gonna disagree with that part. I think that's where most of the disagreement is. I think we can agree that plus $2 now and plus 1 card at the start of your next turn kind of sucks for 5, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's underwhelming.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we agree.
So I think the difference here is how much we value the attack, right?
Yeah, on average. And I think that sometimes that attack is going to be really good. I just don't think that's going to be true very often.
So the way I think about Dominion, like a game of Dominion that's in front of me, the way I think about it is I start before I look at the kingdom cards.
Oh, okay.
And before I've processed any of them, I'm thinking I'm playing a money density deck. And then I look for all the tools I need to do more than that, to maybe draw my deck.
I thought you were going to say the first thing you say is attacks. And this has the word attack on it. Is it the first thing you say?
For video content, yes.
Okay.
But like, part of that, and sort of a subset of that is like, where is my payload come from? What am I going to do on my turns that's meaningful?
Right.
And without anything specifically that is better than that, I'm looking to play silvers and golds to make money.
Sure.
And so without something specific in the kingdom to hard or soft counter this, Corsair's attack matters. Like, the $2 you get for playing a terminal action is not enough for me to say, oh, I'm
Totally
good
agree.
against Corsair's attack. I can just get Corsairs and coppers and win the game that way, because you can't, right?
Well, like, you could, I guess, but like in that situation, Corsair is really good, right?
Yeah. So in my mind, like, the way I'm weighing this attack is, this is something you have to overcome every single game, and sometimes you just won't be able to do it.
If the answer is I'm going to get a bunch of Corsair to beat their Corsair strategy, Corsair is really good.
Agreed. You could say the same about Pirate Ship.
Right. I don't think you say that very often about Pirate Ship, and I don't think you're going to say it that often about Corsair either, although I do think that it's a lot better than Pirate Ship.
So Pirate Ship needs there to be absolutely no other source of non-treasure payload or virtual payload. Pirate Ship needs there to be absolutely no other source of it. And you also need to be able to play multiples in a turn, probably.
And with some other stuff, typically. But yeah.
Corsair only requires... It requires less than that. You only need to get one out every turn. So that's less of a requirement. And then also, you need the virtual payload to just not be so good that plus coppers or whatever else can get you to province or to something meaningful to win the game, which is a looser requirement for Pirate Ship to be good in a two-player game.
Right.
So definitely the attack is stronger, but stronger than Pirate Ship.
Yeah, but where I think the disagreement comes from is the last thing you said, right? You need the other virtual payload to not be good enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
To where they need to get silvers and golds. I think that doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah, and that's a hard disagree from me.
Okay.
I think like half of my games, the virtual payload isn't strong enough, and that's a conservative estimate.
And part of that calculation for me is that, like, again, what other fiver, right? Not that I wouldn't want this in most of my decks, that I wouldn't want it more than the best other fiver in most of my decks. So, like, there are a lot of those games where, yeah, I want silvers and golds. Am I going to pick this up, or am I going to pick Treasurer up? I'm going to pick Treasurer up. Am I going to pick this up, or am I going to pick Butcher up? I'm going to take the Butcher.
Well, hold on. You get to buy multiple cards in Dominion.
Yeah.
You can get them both. Like, why does this comparison matter?
No, but like well, because they directly compete with each other unless one of their stacks is empty. And I don't think I'm gonna get like.
No, that's not true either. They directly compete with each other, but like the first treasurer.
Yeah.
Versus the fifth treasurer is different than the first Corsair, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So just because I would buy the other one first doesn't mean this is garbage. I mean, I only gave it a 6 out of 10.
So what I'm saying is, like, I think that in most cases, I'm taking fifth treasurer before I take the first Corsair.
That's crazy to me.
I mean, I don't actually think I'm taking the fifth treasurer or the first Corsair, because I'm taking, like, something that's not terminal, probably.
And something that doesn't get, like, pretty hard countered by Corsair.
Treasurer doesn't get hard countered by Corsair.
I mean, a lot of the sexiness kind of does. But anyway, that's not important.
Doesn't Treasurer counter Corsair? You regain the trash.
Right. Right. They kind of cancel each other out.
Okay, whatever. I guess my point is, in my opinion, I think a lot of the other like payload options that it competes with are going to be superior to it, and therefore that's going to make it fail the criteria of the other payload needs to not be so good that you can rely on, not be good enough that you can rely on it in lieu of silvers and golds.
Okay, so when you say the payload is not as good as the other one, you're including the attack in part of the payload of Corsair, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so we are communicating, and yes, the disagreement here is how much that attack hurts.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's where the disagreement is, and
I think
in that case, I stand behind my 6, and I think your 3 is just not. I think it should be higher.
I think there will be games where that attack is so brutal that it's absolutely great. I just don't think they're going to be very, very common.
Okay. There you go. Spicy. That's what you come here for, right?
Yeah, just like the spiciness of a war chest.
Just like that.
Look at that hot chest that's been chiseled for war.
Yeah, it causes pain when you taste it. Yeah, spicy.
I was thinking I was trying to make a pun like pecs, like that kind of a chest, pectoral, like muscular, a very muscular war chest.
Yeah, I mean, look at those shields and look at that thing in the middle of that shield. Yeah.
Or like a war chest, like the politicians' campaign funds. That's a war chest.
Yeah, just like that too.
It's very spicy. It's a 5-cost treasure. In this one, we've moved now to the prosperity. Stuff. So you might have guessed that. You might not have. Who knows? It says the player to your left names a card. Gain a card costing up to 5 that hasn't been named for war chests this turn. So note that it just says names a card. It doesn't say that card has to cost up to 5. They could name something that costs more.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would do that.
Because you could scepter a bridge afterward. Hooah!
I gave this a 7.
Yeah, and I gave it a 5.
So I just want to note, not only is this the rare case where I've rated a card higher than you, it's also a workshop.
Okay, workshops, in my mind,
gain cards costing up to 4?
Up to 4. And gaining 5ers is, that's just a different family of cards.
No, wait a minute. You gave Blockade a 7.
Uh-huh.
And you gave this card a 5.
Yeah, because you can't get the best one. And it doesn't attack your opponent.
It's not terminal.
Uh-huh.
You can't draw it dead. And I don't care that, so I do think that sometimes not being able to gain the best one is going to be damaging. Yeah. But I think that usually it's not going to hurt that much. I think the biggest case is if there's a trasher or something you just need to get fast, you just get that before you get this or whatever. You don't want to get this too soon. But I think in a lot of cases, what's going to end up happening is you don't want to get 7 of these because the 7th one is going to get you a copper or something. but the first one, so you can't get the best thing, but that's probably fine because you just buy that. I need a smithy and a village, so they're going to block one of them. I gain the other with the war chest, and then I buy the one they blocked.
Cool. So now, for war chest to be worth it, both of those things have to cost 5?
Yeah. Well, you need multiple things you want to get that cost 5, or just that, you need a workshop so bad that you're willing to pay 5 for it and gain a 4 anyway.
Sure. I mean, this is now losing its favorable comparison to workshop.
I mean, I agree. I don't think that is much value, but it's like, 3% of the value or something.
Nice. Cool.
5.5% of the value.
Yeah, so, I mean, when I think of a 5 out of 10, I think of a card that's really good a little bit of the time, or it's decent, a good percentage of the time, and that feels like War Chest to me.
See, and I think just like most of the time, there are multiple cards that cost 5 that you want.
I should mention that Contraband is the one that this card replaces, and I gotta tell you, it's really nice that when you play a War Chest, you can still buy a province. That was a big problem with Contraband. No one bought it because if you ever played this card, you weren't going to be able to buy a province, and that made it really hard to win the game.
Or like, more often, you weren't going to be able to buy whatever 5-cost card you needed, and then at the end of the game, you weren't going to be able to buy a province.
Sure, there's a slight optimization there, but like not being able to score the most significant source of points in the game because you played this card.
You just have to stop playing it. And
yeah, it feels real bad.
It wasn't doing that much for you in the meantime. So like, there are a few places where it did work and like events, whatever, and this can't gain events because you can't gain events. But
and you can design kingdoms around that.
Who cares?
I had one, but now it's gone. Rip. Anyway, you want to talk about Crystal Ball?
Yeah. So Crystal Ball, it's a 5-cost treasure, just like War Chest. It's also from Prosperity, just like War Chest. It gives you a money, and it says, look at the top card of your deck. Notice it doesn't say reveal. It says look at. So,
ooh, no patron synergy.
No patron
unlike
synergy.
Venture,
That's
which
right.
it replaces.
Which it's replacing.
Dang
yeah.
it.
Look at the top card of your deck. You may trash it, discard it, or what is that comma doing there? Oh,
Donald X likes commas.
No, actually, this one works. Or if it's an action or treasure, you may play it.
You may play it.
Yeah. No, that's in a positive. That comma's totally fine.
So I've just figured out the reason why you ranked this so low. It's because it lost the patron synergy, and I totally understand it now.
Yeah, it's all about that patron synergy. So I ranked it so low. I ranked this a 2 out of 10. I think this card is bad.
This is like, and I ranked it an 8. So strap in, kids.
Have we ever had, between any of the hosts on this podcast before, like, even when you rated Capitalism at 10, I don't think I rated it a 3.
Yeah, it was like a 5, 10 versus a 5, and this is a bigger difference. So
this card is bad.
This is how wrong Wandering Winder is. Like and this is something that's rare. Like Wandering Winder isn't this wrong very often, and here we are. So savor the moment. Savor the moment.
Time, which is not
I should mention that like this card kind of replaces Venture, but it also kind of replaces Loan. But I put Loan as for a different card.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about Crystal Ball.
Yeah.
This is an 8 out of 10, and 2 out of 10 seems absolutely bonkers to me. How could you? Have you bought this card?
I don't think so. No.
Have you like tried putting it in a deck and just seeing what happens?
No.
You should, because you're not gonna rate it 2 out of 10 anymore.
I might rate it a 3. I did. I think I had it a 3, and then I'm like, this card sucks, and I gave it a 2. Maybe I'll go back up to 3. Maybe I'll even get as high as 4. I'm certainly not going to 8.
So Wandering Winder and I argued for over a half an hour about this. I ended up cutting out more than a half an hour of us arguing. That is something that you don't want to hear, so you're welcome. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just sort of state my case for why I think Crystal Ball is good. Wandering Winder states his case, why he doesn't think it's good, and then the salvageable parts of the podcast hopefully go where they go to make a narrative that makes some amount of sense.
So the thing that this has going for it is that it's nominally flexible. Like it can do either, right? Right. It can be the card that plays a card or the card that trashes a card, right? That's the upside of this. Because this costs 5, I don't understand when I'm adding it to my deck, right? If I'm wanting to get thin, I don't think this is efficient enough as a card that costs 5 to be the thing that I want, right? If this is my best option and it costs 5, then I'm probably just not really trying to thin that game because it's not good enough at it. And if I'm not trying to thin, then I like the argument I made about Corsair, where there's usually a better payload card, I think is even way more true about Crystal Ball, that there's usually a better payload card. So yeah, I just think that it largely comes down to, I think this trashes so inefficiently that if it's the best trasher on the board, I'm probably not that interested in trashing.
A lot of why I think Crystal Ball is so good comes down to the fact that, you know, it does so many things, and usually those things are pretty good when you have it. So yeah, it can trash cards. Trashing cards is great. You know, if there's other trashing, you probably go for that too. But when this reveals a card that you want to trash and you trash it, typically that's a very good thing, and it's kind of better than what you're going to do. You know, you may not want to rely on it as like your only trashing. But if it is the only trashing, yeah, I mean, trashing is pretty good, and, you know, when you can trash with it, that's probably still a good thing to do. When it doesn't trash, you know, it's at least a peddler, right? If it revealed some payload action card that you want to play, it kind of functions like a peddler. If that action was terminal, it's sort of like a bazaar in that case. I mean, Crystal Ball is a village, and it does trash cards. Both of these things are very powerful, and, you know, there are downsides. Downside being, you know, you don't exactly get to choose what you get to play or trash most of the time. You don't exactly get to choose which mode the card is going to be in. But, you know, there are other cards in Dominion, like Magpie, that don't let you choose that, but, you know, they're still good. A lot of that is because it resembles a cantrip in a lot of cases. I didn't even get into, like, the specific synergies that it has with, like...
What specific synergies does it have?
There's all of the other stuff that lets you... No, Tunnel's a bad card. all of the stuff that...
It could discard the Tunnel and then get you a gold, and then you play another Crystal Ball, and then maybe you could play the gold, and maybe you could play maybe you discard the Tunnel again.
That sounds delicious. What I was thinking of was all of the stuff that lets you play action cards in your buy phase. So things like Capitalism, Toil... kind of Scepter, kind of Contract in a way. So Toil is obvious, right? If I draw an action card...
Then you can toil and play it?
Then I can toil and play it. If I draw a treasure card...
You're sad.
Whatever. No, I'm still playing treasures. I just play the treasure. It's fine.
Oh.
Something that tells you to play an action card from your hand. It's like the Throne Room family, but a couple of other chumps that don't multiply them.
Yeah.
Like all of the, I hit... yeah, like that. Yeah, like Conclave the Chump.
Yeah.
Like Crystal Ball has synergy with those guys because it doesn't matter. Yeah, because if I Crystal Ball and hit a Throne Room, I want to have an action card in hand that I want to play, right? So you can...
if that situation comes up, but I have a hard time figuring out how you're building your deck in a way that it will.
I mean, Crystal Ball is a village in that deck. So it's a village along with your Throne Rooms, and it thins you. So, like, it has... So, like, just Crystal Ball plus Throne Room. You look at a deck with those two cards and then some action cards that you want to play. Whether they're deck control or not, it doesn't actually matter in this case. If I do have the actions to play the action cards in my hand, I just play them. And if I don't, then I play my Crystal Balls, because by having the Crystal Balls, it functions like it can draw the thing. So now I can draw my Throne Room, because if I had that, I would have just played it as a village, right?
So
am I making sense?
Yeah, you're coming in a lot hotter on like this gamble-esque function of Crystal Ball.
Playing actions in your buy phase.
Playing cards from the top of your deck.
Okay, we'll call them gambles. Sure, you've coined the term.
Investment is a 4-cost treasure. It says trash a card from your hand, choose one, plus a money, or trash this to reveal your hand for +1 VP chip per differently named treasure there. And it kind of sort of replaces loan.
Yeah. So investment trashes from hand instead of searching your card from a deck.
Yep.
Which is good and bad, because with loan you could just run it with like a bunch of other virtual payload and search down your coppers. And here, investment, you have to draw it with the cards you want to trash, but you're never going to flip a silver with your, or you're never going to be forced to trash a silver with your investment, right? You can just...
And once you're getting close to drawing your deck, investment can still clean up the last few things, whereas loan had a hard time doing that.
Yeah, loan didn't really do a good job of finding the last couple coppers, and investment does better at that, and then it even cleans itself up and gives you potentially a couple of VP for your trouble.
Also, it can trash non-treasures.
Yeah.
Which is...
That, estates are really dumb, and I don't like them.
Also curses and ruins, and
those are even dumber than estates, honestly. I gave this a 7 out of 10.
I gave this a 5 out of 10. Man, I think this card is so much better than Crystal Ball. You think it's very slightly worse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't give you any money, which is a bummer,
I mean,
you know?
It usually gives you a money. Choose one plus a money.
When you trash an estate, it gives you the $1. So it's when you trash a copper, it effectively gives you 0. So it's kind of Forager-esque in terms of economy.
Yeah. So yeah. Compared to Crystal Ball, yes, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah, I mean, Crystal Ball is going to give you $1 for trashing, and it doesn't care because it's not coming from your hand, right?
Yeah.
So it also gives you the card, but like,
sure,
the comparison is weird because this also costs 4, and you know it trashes estates right away. So like, yeah, you're probably going to open with this bad boy a decent amount of the time, especially, and be happy if your other opener is terminal,
and that's
because it doesn't matter.
That is really the main reason I think this is better than Crystal Ball, because it costs 4 instead of 5.
It's better at trashing than Crystal Ball. There's no doubt, because you can get it earlier.
Yeah. And
it's better at getting you thin.
It's also better at getting you VP ships. You're going to educate me with some, like, oh, but the Crystal Ball played a Goons.
Well, Goons is gone.
The thing that Goons got replaced with, or whatever.
Ooh, there you go. That's pretty spicy.
Yeah. I think there might be some cases where you can, like, score a lot of points with this, but it's going to be pretty hard and not very common.
So, the comparison to Loan, I think, is sort of interesting.
Yeah.
Like, when Loan was good, it was really, really good.
Was it?
Like, if you could open, like, with some other virtual payload card and keep going with virtual economy until your Loan actually cleaned up your coppers, like, it was really good. Like, you know.
Don't think I would call that really good.
So yeah, an investment.
Okay.
Investment sort of like, it doesn't have all those requirements, but it, you know, it's just more of a kind of always solid.
Yeah, it's
as opposed to like sometimes this is really good.
It's steadier. It's less fluctuating.
Yeah.
Perhaps a lower ceiling, but definitely a higher floor.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like 7 out of 10.
Like a 5 out of 10, because it's average.
I mean, I think it's a little bit above average because trashing cards is overpowered.
Trashing cards is overpowered. I think I would usually prefer to do it with something else, but hey, this gets the job done.
Yeah. I mean, it only trashes 1 card every time you play it, but like, estates are really dumb.
They are.
I don't know if you've heard this. Next up, we have Charlatan. It's 5 cost action attack, gives you 3 monies. It says each other player gains a curse. Not bad. In games using this, curse is also a treasure worth $1. This one replaced Mountebank, which made any game that it appeared in worse.
Oh, except those few times where it was awesome.
Yeah, so any game it appeared in worse. That's never happened to me.
No.
Like, I've never seen Mountebank and been like, oh, I'm so glad this is here.
Adam,
I'm going to have more fun this game because Mountebank is in it.
You just haven't seen or played enough games. Once you play like 50,000 games, there's like 4 of them where Mountebank is really increasing the fun.
I would really like to see those games. I'm genuinely curious.
So there are a couple of games where...
Wait, you're serious?
Oh, yeah. We're just like, you're getting totally just mauled by the Mountebank attack, but then you overcome it and it feels great. Like, you clean yourself up and it takes forever, but then it feels great and you're like, ha, you were just playing Mountebanks, but I was playing mountebanks and getting hammered worse than you, but then I cleaned up because somehow, even though I was taking like 2 junk every turn, I was able to get deck control after 23 turns.
Okay.
And then
this definitely happened.
I remember it very well because it's the one time in 10,000 games, okay? And then there are like a couple of other times where with Counting House, like it made Counting House relevant.
Oh, rest in peace, Counting House.
Like it was so good. It's like,
better.
you're hammering me with mountebanks. Great. Well, this game's gonna take forever, and I'm gonna play my 3 Counting Houses on shuffle 27. Okay, not 27. Shuffle 7, which is like really late.
Turn 27.
Yeah, probably not quite that late. And I'm gonna buy Dominate because you've stuck so many coppers in my deck that the Counting House is amazing. And I have done that.
This sounds to me
2
like
or 3 games.
This sounds to me like Counting House being good on colony boards, which is a nice little inset. Well, colony is in the same set as Counting House because of prosperity. Yeah. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, Charlatan, I give this an 8 out of 10.
I gave this an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, getting $3 for a 5er is not bad, but then it junks your opponent with copper curses.
Yeah.
And I mean that's great. 8 out of 10.
Worse than coppers, but better than curses.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Copper curses.
Yeah, it's like it was tempting when I saw this to be like, oh well, the attack doesn't hurt as bad, and compared to something like Witch, it doesn't help your deck control. So.
Right, I would probably rather have 2 cards.
And
than $3
I would rather. I do
a
think Witch is
decks,
a better. I do think Witch is a better card than this.
9 out of 10.
Yeah, I might even go like borderline 10 out of 10 for Witch.
It's a solid like high 9 out of 10.
Oh yeah. But and that's like this isn't as good as Witch and it's not as debilitating, whatever. But like then I played one game where my opponent just gave me like 8 curses with this, and I was just like, oh well, I can get deck control, and I did. Like when they had 6 provinces.
Yeah, junking is still good. Yeah.
Because like
still gotta do it.
And like not only is junking good, but 3 money, that's a long way towards buying a province.
That's so many money. It's like 37%.
And a half.
Give or take a 0.5%.
And a half.
Yeah. Towards the way there, yeah. It's so good. So Clerk is a 4-cost action, attack, reaction.
Yeah.
Gives you plus $2. Each other player with 5 or more cards in hand puts 1 onto their deck. And then the reaction part is at the start of your turn, you may play this from your hand. So if you drew it in your starting hand, it's non-terminal. That's really what the reaction does.
Yeah.
Now, I realize that Clerk is from Prosperity and Ghost Ship is from Seaside, but let's be honest here. Clerk is replacing Ghost Ship.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. Ghost Ship.
Yeah.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
And Clerk is only half as annoying. I approve.
Yeah, but it's also like kind of easier to just slot into your deck, right?
Yeah. I mean,
4 instead of 5.
It's 4, and it's like a 4-cost silver, but it's better.
Right. So it's pretty good.
Kind of.
Like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
Tiara.
I think you're gonna open with Clerk a large percentage of games, and if you're gonna draw your deck, you're probably just gonna get the one of them. And if you're playing like money density, you're gonna be happy to just stick more in your deck because you're not drawing that much, so they're kind of close to being non-terminal. And even though the attack is only half as annoying as Ghost Ship, it's still kind of annoying.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're drawing your deck, I could see putting like a second or, I don't know, if you're feeling real spicy, even a 3rd Clerk in the deck.
I mean, you could, but there's not as much incentive to if you get to play it every turn anyway. It's not like It's not like they stack.
Yeah. But either you have the terminal space to where, like, why not? Or you don't have the terminal space and you really want to... This seems really bad. You really want to make sure you get this without spending the action for it. That seems pretty bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Give me a scheme.
Great.
I probably wouldn't want to...
Look at that synergy.
I probably wouldn't want to scheme this to the top anyway in that deck.
Synergy in quotation marks.
Yeah, look at
that synergy. Yeah.
Almost makes me want to put like a little crownlet thing on my head. Like like I was a princess and I was gonna wear a tiara.
And men can wear tiaras too.
Sure.
What? I want to wear a tiara. I love tiaras.
Tiara, it's a 4-cost treasure, and it says plus a buy. This turn, when you gain a card, you may put it onto your deck. You may play a treasure from your hand twice.
Yeah, and Royal Seal is gone, and the whole top decking effect has been absorbed by this tiara. I have to say that the tiara is more attractive than the Royal Seal in terms of like aesthetic value to me.
Yeah,
but also it's a better card.
Except for the Royal Seal where it was the little animal and he's wearing a crown. That one was great.
Like Way of the Seal?
Like Way of the Seal, but like
with a tiara.
With a crown or a tiara on, yeah. Somebody should leave a comment in the comment section where you made that photoshopped art.
Ooh, that would be pretty sweet. So first of all, Tiara gives you a buy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost an action. That's pretty lit.
It also costs 4 instead of 5.
Yeah. The thing is though, like Royal Seal, that always makes you $2, and if you open with this,
yeah, I don't want.
It's probably making you $1 for like a minute.
Right. I don't think I want to open with this very often.
Right. So like the 4 cost is slightly less sexy because you don't really want to open with it, but you know, it's fine.
It's easier to pick up later still. It's
like this is like a good solid payload card.
Yeah.
That gives you a buy.
And gives you
like if I already
reliability, right? Like if I'm drawing my deck, like I have one of these, I have a gold, so it's basically like a gold that gives me a buy because I got to play the gold twice. And then I get a top deck the draw cards that I buy this turn. And that's pretty hot.
Yeah, it is pretty hot. So like, I remember the days. I remember when Dark Ages came out and Scavenger was released, and I was thinking like, oh man, I've been putting Chancellor in these decks for so long, and Chancellor in my decks for so long, and trust me, it was a problem because it sucked.
Yeah.
But like when I had Chancellor in a deck, and I was thinking maybe this isn't so bad, which is like the best case for Chancellor, right?
Stash.
I was thinking like, oh, I don't have to worry about shuffles triggering a bad shuffle. It doesn't matter. I have a Chancellor. Look at me and my fancy Chancellor, my Chancy. Anyway,
that's Pokemon.
Yeah, but like with Scavenger, you know, now this is a good card.
Yeah.
Scavenger's a good card to put in a deck because it does an additional thing. But now you have this effect, and you didn't know how good it was because you never put it in your deck because it was always on a bad card. But now Tiara is not a bad card.
No.
And now this effect is in your deck because it was a good card and you bought it and you wanted plus buy and it's just solid and it's really good. And now you're doing this and you're like, holy butt cracks! Where have you been? I wish I was doing this before. This is so great.
I mean,
I give it a 7 out of 10.
People have been doing it because they like take Tracker, which I don't think is a very good card.
Also a bad card, yeah.
But people seem to
Watchtower, I guess.
Yeah, Way of the Seal.
But still,
it's like because you don't have to actually buy Way of the Seal. You could just get to use it when it's relevant.
Yeah, but still.
But like this card is.
This is better.
You need you want it to be able to pretty reliably play something better than a copper. And when you can do that, it's a pretty good card.
So good. It's so good, like without the top decking, and now you're top decking things, and you're like, holy crap.
I mean,
maybe I'm okay with a copper with a buy in my deck just so I can do this.
Yeah,
and
if it's,
I don't know, you probably are some of the time.
And like, you take 1 silver, it's fine. It's a good card.
Yeah.
And then this makes more
so
money.
Good.
It's pretty hot.
Yeah. Anvil.
Yeah.
It's a 3-cost treasure, gives you a money, and says you may discard a treasure to gain a card costing up to 4.
Yeah.
And this kind of replaces Talisman. Gives you 4 costs.
Yeah.
But it gives you more flexibility than Talisman. Anyway.
This card is so similar to Workshop.
It's a lot like Ironworks in my book. Like, it's almost exactly the same as Ironworks.
Kind of.
Like it's non-terminal, and you discard a copper and you gain a 4 cost, and then you get a money back. Like it's a treasure instead of an action, and woo!
Right.
But
So, like,
functionally, it's the same. And it
if
costs
you're
3.
gaining an action with this, it is a lot like Ironworks, except you can't do the game and play stuff, and it costs 3.
And Ironworks sometimes has some other bonuses, like you can gain a silver and get that $1 if you really wanted, but like you can also just not take the Anvil ability, and sure.
Right. Yeah, it's
neato.
It's pretty
so similar to Ironworks.
Pretty similar, yeah.
I gave Ironworks 6 out of 10, and I gave this a 7 out of 10. Why did I give them different numbers? Because I wasn't looking at the ratings at the same time. Yeah. So about a 6 or 7, and you gave
Ironworks a 5, and I give it
5.
a 4. And I think this is a little bit worse than Ironworks, because...
Why?
You can't do game and play, and you do sometimes take the other stuff with Ironworks. I don't know that
But this costs 3.
Ugh. Yeah, but I just don't think that matters very much.
Sure, right. And I think you're not wrong about any of the stuff you said, but in my mind that is not enough of a difference to make me change the numbers.
I mean, like, I would probably say that this is less than a full point difference, but I'm not doing, like, 4.2 against 4.6 or whatever.
Yeah, you're not Jake.
Right. Jake, by the way, gives this a 5.95.
And then he tells me, whoa, calm down there, Adam.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, it's Ironworks, only it's a treasure. You're welcome.
Yeah, so like as a workshop, this can't do gain and play. Sometimes you can not use the workshop ability, and like I really wanted all the money. This is also a little bit worse if you were going to trash all your coppers.
Yeah, it's a little worse when you're like drawing your deck and getting thin, because you lose gain and play, and then you also have to discard a treasure. But then if you can draw the treasure again, raw.
Combos with Crystal Ball.
Look at that.
Hot.
That's so good.
I think this is a little bit better maybe than most of the other workshops. Not all of them, because it's not better than Groom for like rushes. Because like
really, I was thinking it could be a little worse because like you have. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you could just get all of these, and you don't have to worry about terminal collision. You don't have to worry about terminal collision when they're gaining the green cards either. So like...
Yeah, but you have to worry about colliding it with a treasure. And I get the other anvils are treasures, but now you're like discarding an anvil to an anvil, and that feels bad.
You're giving up your buy, basically. But, like, I think you're going to get two things in a reason. I mean, I haven't tested this, but like I think you're going to get like 2 gardens a reasonable amount at the time or whatever.
Oh, you can open with 2 of these, though.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah, yeah. So like compared to Groom, it's no comparison. Groom is better. Like, nobody's arguing that, right? I'm sure there are cases where this is better than Groom, but like, yeah. But like for a rush, Groom is the king of the gardens or Silk Road rush, or the queen, if the Groom is a woman.
No, the Groom is the most attractive male that has appeared on any Dominion card, with one notable exception that I won't mention.
Is it the horse on Groom?
All right, next is Collection.
Yeah. Collection. It's a 5-cost treasure. Gives you 2 money and a buy, and it says this turn, when you gain an action card, plus a VP chip. So this is
and I think the bigger news on this slide is Goons is gone. Goons is gone.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 Goons out of the game.
Right. With a not 10 out of 10 collection, more like 7 out of 10 collection.
Yeah, more like an 8 out of 10 collection. Something around those parts.
So this has really good synergy with like supplies and livery.
Oh, there's like some, like horses in general, I think are pretty busted with collection, because you can make golden decks somewhat easily, because you can just draw a bunch of collections and then play your horse gainers, like Stampede, for example. 5 collections and Stampede is pretty hilarious.
You can double
because
Stampede,
you
right?
can get 50 points every turn.
Yeah, that
seems pretty nuts.
That's pretty good. I think some of the horse gainers don't work as well, like Slay or Paddock.
The terminal ones, sure.
Well, like,
but it's like it's really nice to gain horses with
Livery
collections.
though. Livery works real well.
Oh, the ones that gain horses in your action phase.
Yeah,
of course.
Basically, yeah.
No bueno.
Cavalry, probably because you got to go back to your action phase, is really bonkers.
Sure, yeah.
Similar Villa. Yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of combos with this. Unlike Goons, you don't score just based on like buying a copper though. So like most games, you're gonna run out of cheap actions. So this isn't like 10,000 points. It's like a lot, but not 10,000.
And that's that's the big reason why I didn't give it a 9.
Yeah.
Goons in my mind is a 10 out of 10 because like every single game it matters. But that had a lot to do with the attack as well.
Also the attack, yeah.
There's no attack here, which is better for the game of Dominion. Just gonna say that.
Yeah, and so the last point I want to make in the like Goons comparison, you're gonna run out of actions, which also is gonna make the game end. So it's like harder to be like, oh, my opponent has 6 provinces. No problem, I have 6 goons. My opponent has 6 provinces. Maybe I can come back with 6 collections, but maybe not.
You actually have to care about what your opponent is doing if they're not going for collection.
Right.
Whereas with goons, if they weren't going for goons, you can just do whatever you wanted, and you were going to win the game at the end.
Make sure you don't like stupidly lower too many piles, and you're gonna win, or wreck your deck or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But with collection, you kind of have to actually think about it.
Yeah.
And still, like, you want this because VP tokens are busted, and silver with a buy is, like, already decent for 5.
Yeah.
But yes, give me VP tokens. Those are amazing.
I mean, I don't know that silver with the buy, if it gave you nothing else, would be very good for 5, but, like, a VP per action you gain is a lot better than nothing.
That's significantly more than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what else? You know what else is kind of like a silver with a buy?
What is that?
Astrolabe. It's a treasure duration. It says now and at the start of your next turn, plus a money, plus a buy.
Yeah, so we're now entering the part where there's no direct replacement. So Astrolabe didn't directly replace anything, so this is just a new card. And then the ones that got killed and don't have direct replacements. We'll talk about those in a minute.
Womp womp.
But Astrolabe, it's fine. It gives you a buy. It doesn't take up an action, and you only have to draw it half the turns. 6 out of 10.
5 out of 10. Like I think you'd usually rather have like a market square or a market or something, but those aren't always available. And like,
I mean, if I don't care about the buy, silver is better, right? You are giving something up for the buy here, I think.
Yeah. So like if you just looking at the money, this is like Fishing Village or Lighthouse, right? It gives you a money now and a money later, which is usually worse than silver.
Yeah.
There are edge cases, but like,
not by so much that you wouldn't open this just because it's orange, right?
I probably wouldn't. I mean, it depends. Right.
Yeah, it also depends on how much you want to hit 5 and maybe 6, right?
Right. How much do I want to hit 5? How much do I want to hit 6? Are there like spammable 2s that I'd like to get a bunch of? Because like this is probably going to like if you get this on turn 3, then there's a good chance you could get 2 2s on turn 3 and 2 2s on turn 4. If that's what you want to do, Astrolabe's your man or your
Labe.
Yeah, your Labe.
It's your Labe. Yeah.
Should we?
Those are seahorses holding that up. Anyway, let's move on to monkey.
Holy crap! You're right. Do you know that the male seahorse is the one that gets pregnant?
It's the one that gives birth.
Yeah.
You ever watched a video of a male seahorse giving birth?
No.
Just look it up on YouTube. It is hilarious.
Okay. I'm not going to second that recommendation, but
No, look, there are videos of fish on YouTube that I wouldn't recommend looking up, but this is one of them. You will not regret it. I promise.
Okay. Adam promises.
It's hilarious.
Monkey.
Monkey. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ah, ah, ah.
It's a 3-cost action duration. It says, until your next turn, when the player to your right gains a card, plus a card. At the start of your next turn, plus a card. This card is so good, Adam. This card is so busted.
Okay, I need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Why is the art blurry? It's just blurry. This isn't a problem with resolution or nothing
no,
like
is.
that.
It's because the artist...
It's just blurry.
The artist drew it as a low-res scan. No, I have no idea.
It looks so awful. I hate it so much. More pixels. Why?
I honestly didn't notice until you said something.
It's distracting. It's so awful. I hate it.
Is that why you only gave it a 6 out of 10?
Okay, I gave it a 6 out of 10. Let me be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've only seen, for some reason, I have not played that many games with Monkey in them.
I gotta tell you,
and of those games, I haven't bought it even once.
Okay.
So the reason I gave this a 6 out of 10 is because I looked at my rating for Enchantress, which was a 7, and I'm like, oh, at the start of your next turn, plus 2 cards, and Enchantress has an attack on it.
Yeah.
So Monkey gets a 6.
So,
and I understand, sure, there's some upside where you draw more cards, so maybe it could be a 7.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So this is a hot take.
Okay, so I've had multiple games where one of these every turn drew me my entire deck.
Sounds like your opponent was playing poorly.
One of them, the best thing to do, and it might have been the only village, was Bandit Camp.
Okay.
And every spoils is a card they gain. And poof.
Sounds to me like maybe I don't want to go for the Bandit Camp deck, but
yeah, well,
I mean, that makes Monkey powerful, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
so there were other ways I could have drawn, but in the end, I didn't need them because, so I don't think you should open with this very often. I don't think it's very good.
Seems kind of bad.
Yeah, it's gonna be like you say, it's like an Enchantress without the attack, which is
it's orange, which I don't want to open with orange cards. I don't like doing it.
Sure.
I mean, I do it sometimes, but I don't like it.
Talk to me when we get to 2 cards down the line. So I think this is a card you get late, and I'm not expecting to draw my deck with just one of these very often, but if you imagine your opponent, it's not that uncommon for them to gain multiple cards in a turn, right? They're drawing their deck or getting close to it, and they buy 2 cards. Well, then now this is like a smithy, right? It gives you 3 cards, and it only costs 3.
So at that point, I would consider it on par with Enchantress, because you can kind of sort of say that the attack might be minus a card. So.
And then it's not that uncommon for your opponent to buy 3 cards in a turn.
I don't know about not that uncommon. I would say that's
I don't say it happens every game.
If we're going for Magic the Gathering card rarity, common would be 1 and 2, and then uncommon is 3, and then mythic rare and whatever else.
I believe the only other rarity that comes in most packs is basic land.
Wait, what? I thought mythic rare was a thing. Was it
it's
common, uncommon, rare, and mythic rare?
Common, uncommon, rare, and mythic rare, and most packs have either a rare or a mythic rare. But there is basic land, which is a different rarity because there's just one in every pack, and there's only 5 of them,
and you can just go to any game store and they'll give you as many as you want for free.
Basically, that's true now, yes. Although it wasn't true when the game came out 30 years ago. And, the early sets, which are now worth hundreds of dollars a pack or whatever, man, I watched a video of somebody cracking one of those the other day, and over half the cards were just basic lands. It was tight. Anyway.
All right, a little diversion.
But so Monkey, I'm not trying to say it's going to draw you your whole deck a lot, but I don't think it's going to be oh my god, it happened this one time and it will never happen again. You think about Triumph can score 1,000,000 points.
Wow, that's so many points.
But like, it's not that uncommon to get like a 7-point triumph, right?
I mean, that seems uncommon to me.
I mean, I guess part of that is you're building for, I'm going to gain extra cards, so my triumphs will be worth more.
Sure.
And presumably, if your opponent plays monkey, you're gonna like do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
But I just think there's so many things. We want to talk about horses again. Any of those horse gainers with this?
Oh yeah, look at that.
This suddenly draws a lot of cards.
Yeah.
Is duration draw so it makes you like super reliable?
It's like that road network, only actually
on
good.
Any card instead of only victory cards.
Yeah, and
You'd have
you
to
can do
play
it more
it
than
as
once.
Draw it and play it as a terminal, but yeah. So like, I think this card is incredibly good, except and the only reason I didn't give it a 10 is just because there's some games where like you're playing money and buying one thing a turn, and then like maybe you get this, but probably you don't.
So my read on this, having never actually bought the card, is that, I mean, I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10 because it's never going to totally warp everything. I wouldn't give it a 9 out of 10 because it just doesn't seem like it's common enough that my opponent would be gaining all that many cards, or be wanting to gain all that many cards, be stopped from doing so by the threat of the monkey.
I think...
And then I dock it 1 more point just for the art because it offends me.
Okay. So I think like there's a decent chunk of games where you're playing money and you just... maybe you get this, but probably you don't. And then there's like
a squirrel.
There's like a big chunk of games where you are gonna draw like 3 to 4 cards per, like say around 3 on average cards per play of this, which is good. And then there's like a pretty decent chunk of games where you're gonna draw 4, 5, 6 cards to turn off this, which is really, really good. And then there's like, I don't know, 5 or 10% of the games where it's like, I'm drawing my deck with just one of these. And it's absurd.
Yeah, you had me until pretty decent chunk of games, and then I thought it seemed overstated. But anyway, I've never bought the card, so, you know, I'm not going to get in a...
Speaking of another card you've never bought, Tide Pools.
I have never bought this card. Let's read it. Tide Pools. It's a 4-cost action duration. Gives you +3 cards and +1 actions. Really wow, good. How have I never bought this card? At the start of your next turn, discard 2 cards. That's not discard down to 3. That's discard 2 cards.
Yeah. If it said discard down to 3, this card would be so good.
It would be busted. But unfortunately, I gave it a 1 out of 10. I've never bought this card because I can't imagine a deck where I would actually be okay with that downside of like skip your next freaking turn.
It's not skip your next turn.
It's basically skip your next turn, unless you have guide or other duration draw. Which
well, okay,
why?
So first of all, you can't think of a situation, and then you just said the word guide, and that's a situation, right?
Right. That I said unless you have this.
Okay.
And I think that's like it.
So I could think of a few situations where this is great. I give it a 4 out of 10.
Guide seems like the only one.
So guide is a big one. The other really good cases for it are, I will not have another turn after my next turn.
I don't think you want Tide Pools. Why are you buying this card and putting it in your deck?
Because I'm only going to have 1 more turn, and I would like to draw a bunch of cards on it.
I would rather have a province.
I would sometimes rather have a province, but also province costs 8, and this only costs 4.
Sick.
Like I could workshop.
I'm talking about this. I could talk about this in like. So what I'm saying is, when you want this card, you want multiples because you want to draw a bunch, right?
No. So maybe this is the disagreement. I think the general case for this, you're going to get a very small number of them, and it's going to be okay. Like you get 1 or maybe 2. I don't think you're going to want like 7 of them very often. Like maybe you go for a mega turn, maybe. But I don't think that, like, I think that is pretty bad. I mean, from a theoretical unless there's guide, right? If there's guide, I want 8 of these and 2 guides, and I'm very happy, right?
Yes.
But yeah, in general, I think I'm going to want no more than 1 a turn, and probably not even 1 every turn. If I play 1 of these a turn, it's like a forum, but different.
Yeah, you know what? I'm thinking of I'm thinking of something that's better than that for almost every deck ever. Silver.
Silver is not better than forum for almost every deck ever.
Right, but it's better than tide pools.
I don't think that. I don't. Well,
I think you have to stretch really far to get there. Like it's so much worse than
like
forum.
Discarding down to 3 cards at the start of your turn is sometimes not that bad. Like you can
Forum
play around...
would be much worse if you had to discard the 2 cards before you got to draw the 3 cards. It would be absolute trash.
You draw the 3 cards first. But I mean, I'm not trying to say that this card isn't a lot worse than forum, because I think this card is a lot worse than forum. I just don't think it's like unplayably bad.
Right. So you have to stretch really far to get to the point where I think this is better than nothing. And then you compare it to silver. And like, yeah, you can do it, and that's why I gave it a 1 instead of a 0. Guide is the only time that I would really seriously consider this card.
I think that there are situations where you can pick one up, and the amount of good it does for you the turn you play it is going to be good enough that the downside where you could discard the worst 2 of 5, like you've got militia attack. By the way, I do think it's truly horrendous in the face of discard attacks.
It seems real bad.
Because it stacks, baby.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, there are a lot of cases where I think it's awful, and then some cases where I think it's mediocre, and then very rare cases like Guide or maybe a Megaturn, maybe, or...
It's hard for me to imagine a Megaturn deck that the one component that it really needs is non-terminal draw.
I mean...
So, like, I'm thinking it's got to be Horn of Plenty, right? And then... And you're magically able to gain a bunch of these on the turn before. Like, it has to be exactly Horn of Plenty.
No, it could be like Bridge, and you just don't have other sources of draw.
Then how are you going to be gaining a bunch of these on the previous turn and being happy with your life? It seems so narrow.
Over time. I mean, like, this isn't...
Oh, God, slowly over time. No.
This isn't...
No way.
I'm not saying this is the best enabler for that deck, but, like, sometimes you play single Tactician.
Okay. That is 1 card that accomplishes that.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
I mean,
cool.
Like, I'm not trying to say this card is good. I just think it's better than a 1 out of 10.
I think certain situations in Horn of Plenty games I could see, and I think Guide is very good. Yeah. Other than that, trash.
Yeah, and I think you can gain 1 here and there sometimes, and it'll be fine.
I think the most interesting part about this is that it's been a long time since Donald X has printed a card that I would rate lower than like a 4.
Really? I would definitely rate Gatekeeper as like a 1.
Oh, I gave Gatekeeper a 3, didn't I? Okay, lower than a 3.
I would give Gatekeeper like a 1 at best.
That's probably fine for certain money density decks with junking. I don't know.
And I would give Crystal Ball a 2, but
Well, you're wrong about that. We've spent a long time discussing that.
We have.
Yeah.
Should we move on to a different 4-cost action duration card that you might actually want to put in your deck, and you might actually even open with an orange card for?
Yeah, I mean, it trashes. Of course I would open with this.
Sailor is a 4-cost action duration. It says plus an action. Once this turn, when you gain a duration card, you may play it. At the start of your next turn, plus 2 money, and you may trash a card from your hand. Boy, does this give me Transmogrify vibes.
It plays out, in practice, a lot more similar to Transmogrify. When you look at it, though, you just see, like, oh, this is priest plus $2 and trash a card. Like, yeah, give me that.
And
Only
it's
non-terminal.
non-terminal, but it doesn't have
Oh, that's
mega
so
turn
good.
potential.
Well, then you have this really narrow upside for like, oh, but what if there's amulet on the board? That seems really great.
Well,
this seems really great with a 3-cost or less duration card, right?
I mean,
seems amazing.
There is always Sailor, which, like on turn 3 or 4, it's not that likely that you have Sailor in your hand and 4 money. But
right.
it's not like oh my gosh, it's both my cards missed the opening shuffle rare. It's like, you know, what happens, I don't know, like, I haven't checked the numbers, but it's going to be like 10% or
like
20% of the time, something
15
like
to 17%, something like that.
Something in that range, vaguely. So like it'll happen, not never. And then you can use it later on without just amulet. Like, I played a Wharf off this. It was fine.
Oh, that's pretty hot. I don't think Sailor itself is necessarily the thing you're looking for, because I'm not going to count on hitting 4 with a Sailor in hand.
No.
And then by the time I can do that, why am I wanting to load up on more Sailors?
I'm certainly not.
I've probably bought 2 by that point, and that's all I want.
I'm certainly not counting on it. I just think that it's like, it's a nice little upside. It's not nothing.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, in Seaside only games, you're going to see duration cards a lot more, and you're going to see this matter. But without another duration card, I'm not putting too much weight on that thing.
I'm mostly evaluating it on the plus an action, next turn you get 2 money and trash a thing.
Yeah,
and it's very,
I gave it an 8 out of 10.
I gave it a 6 out of 10. It's very transmogrified. It's so much better on turn 3 than on turn 4.
It is orange, yeah.
And like, even more so than some of the other orange cards. But just like, to me, transmogrify has more usefulness later, whereas this is like, later. Like, after you've done your trashing, it's fine.
Yeah, it's like a worse silver.
Yeah.
In the worst case. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. And in some cases,
yeah,
but there's draw to X decks, and then it's better.
Woo!
Because those decks are great. You almost are drawn towards them as if by a magnet.
Nice. That was all right. That was a good one. Magnet is 5-cost action. Says reveal your hand, +1 card per treasure in it. And I remember looking at this card. I'm like, oh sweet, it's probably like Smithy for 5. I would rate Smithy for 5 at like 6 or 7 out of 10. Like, Smithy is overpowered.
Well, I would rate Smithy for 5 at like 4 out of 10. But
no, you wouldn't. Don't lie. So anyway. So I'm thinking like, oh yeah, Magnet, that's probably like Smithy most of the time, and then it has this upside, it can draw more cards. Let's tell them the truth. It's time for the truth.
The truth is that although Adam is pronouncing this card Magnet, and that's a perfectly valid, I don't mean to impugn that pronunciation, it's perfectly valid pronunciation. Do Photoshop this card to have a picture of one of those things with it's like a horseshoe shape with a north and a south pole on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But this is actually referring to like, at least from the picture, it looks like an official, like a robber baron / captain of industry, like, you know.
It's a woman with like a pointy hat.
The female version of John Rockefeller. In the Middle Ages, in a like a.
That's exactly what. Yeah.
The female John Rockefeller who lives in a nunnery. Because, you know,
there it is, right there.
Those nuns, they really do take control of. So the real truth about this card, plus a card per treasure in it, that can be very good, but usually is not.
But it never actually is.
No, I mean, like, I had... The problem with this card is, if this is your primary draw card, it sucks.
It sucks.
Like, what is my deck? Oh, it's a bunch of actions and some treasures. So, like, by the time I need to play this in my turn, I have, like, 1 or 2 treasures in my hand, and let's say I have 2 on average, and like, woohoo, it's a 5-cost moat, baby.
How are you ever going to pull off that big draw without drawing cards first?
Right.
And
So
if you can never get off the ground with this thing, then, well, whoops, it's a bad card. Oops,
and so
oops-a-roo.
the answer is you use other cards to draw some, and then you use this to draw later. But my
But
question
that
to you
doesn't
is,
actually
my
work.
question, it can work, but my question to you is, if there are other cards to draw, why not just keep using them?
Yep. And Magnet gets a 3 out of 10.
I did have a game where I used this. I had like 6 captains, and so they drew me a bunch, but like there was like no thinning. So my deck was big, and it had a bunch of treasures in it. So like after I had my 3 duration captains come in, I could play one of these, and it would draw me like 6 cards, and that was like pretty good. But you know what else would have been good? Smithy.
Anything?
Like it would have been like there was Swashbuckler in that game. The value of this card over like the 4th Swashbuckler, it was better, but it wasn't much better.
You got there, man. You did it. I'm proud of you.
It was hot. It's a 3 out of 10.
It's got that lit church synergy. Yeah. Church 3 coppers every turn, and now your Magnet draws.
Yeah. I mean, there are probably ways you can duration draw whatever, I guess. I don't know, but like I don't have to do a lot of work for my 5-cost Smithy to be a Smithy.
Yeah, still bad.
Yeah.
3 out of 10.
I don't know. Like I don't know. Maybe with like capitalism and all your villages are
capitalism. Whoa.
But like I don't want to have to buy a capitalism to make my Smith like capitalism.
Look,
and this is the only Smithy on the board, and like
if you need a 10 out of 10 to make your card good, your card's bad. And the 10 out of 10 is good. Yeah.
We're back to
I
the
said that
capitalism
just
is 10 out of 10.
I said that just for you wondering whether.
Oh, rip Counting House.
So, yeah, so there are 4 cards that were removed that don't have a direct replacement. There's actually technically 5. I'm really going to miss that stack of blanks from Seaside First Edition.
I almost mailed you one of my blanks.
If you autographed it, like, I would probably frame it.
I almost like designed like a fan card and wrote it on there. Like I had it printed out. Actually, I had it in a WordPad document because I didn't have Word at the time. I made it all up. Well, it wasn't a card. It was an event. Or maybe it was a project. I can't remember.
I would want it handwritten by you, though. That would just be way better.
I would have to, like, buy a Sharpie, man.
Just like a ballpoint pen would be fine.
Okay.
And then, like, I would frame that along with a picture of me photoshopped to a picture of you so that it looks like we're together.
Hey, bruh. Anyway, we're really going to miss those blanks. We're also going to miss Counting House because it's gone now. And I really loved it so the problem with Counting House is it was almost always terrible. And then when it was good, it was usually like, oh, it's this combo that's broken, like Traveling Fair, pretty much.
Or Night Watchman. Both of them.
Night Watchman was like very good. I don't know if I'd call it broken.
It's a combo.
It is a combo.
It really is. I didn't want it to be. It is. Night Watchman Counting House is a legitimate tier 2 combo.
But like other than that, it's almost. But like when it is good and it's not a combo, oh man, those games were.
It's like a crappy colony game.
There is.
Or I designed a kingdom around that once.
One of my highest viewed videos from this year is it's a Counting House game where I wasn't doing anything with Counting House, but my opponent had like a Counting House and like 4 cellars and all this weird junk that was like somehow it just came together and worked. And man,
I designed it.
That was great. It was a great game. Like I lost and I'm like, this was fantastic. I loved losing this game.
I designed a kingdom that was kind of like that once. It was pretty sweet. TBH.
Yeah, and then like
there was like chapel and stuff, and you're supposed to ignore chapel and go for this really
janky
strange.
Counting. Yeah,
it's pretty sweet.
That kind of stuff is what I think makes Dominion great, and we're gonna lose that now that Counting House is gone. Although it happens so rarely that I'm not really crying.
Look, I was pretty firmly against Counting House being removed, and when this was being talked about, I actually was still like enough of a picture to weigh in on this. I feel about Counting House a similar way to the way I felt about Coppersmith when it was removed.
Mm-hmm.
These are unique effects in the game of Dominion, and there are people that want to build decks around these unique effects. And it doesn't matter how powerful those unique effects are. The fact that they exist means that certain types of people, which are not really all that uncommon, are going to have a type of fun in the game of Dominion that they are now not going to have. And now there's like really hardly any avenues. Like the game needs bad cards with unique effects that are like really narrow.
My
right.
Like my favorite cards tend to be narrow cards. Like it's not that they're just terrible all the time, like I don't know, Scout, or that they're bad but not that bad, but it's just not doing like Great Hall. Like Great Hall wasn't that bad, but it like who cared about it? It's a cantrip that gives you a point. It doesn't give you a point on play. It's just one like.
Yeah.
The card wasn't terrible, but nobody's missing it, right?
Yeah. A lot of the cards that have been removed for second editions, I can very easily say that was a weak card and no one's going to miss it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's some of them. And then there are some other ones that, you know, I can justify it and say, like, you know, I might miss that other card that got removed if it weren't for this direct replacement that's kind of a reworked version that just makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to miss that card. Dominion's still a better game because we're getting rid of that card. And then there are the really oppressive attacks and da-da-da, and like, yes, the game is definitely better without goons in it because we have collection and also goons, right?
Everybody's
and same thing with Mountebank.
Goons.
Everybody's favorite card is goons. And I can even twist my brain around the idea that the game is better without Seahag in it. I can get past my emotional attachment to that card.
Yeah.
And I can get there. With Coppersmith and Counting House, I firmly believe that Dominion is worse without those two cards.
Yeah, so...
And Donald X, who knows more about this than me, disagrees.
I think it's fine that, like, those cards are gone because they were narrow enough that, like, I like Counting House. I wish it wasn't gone, but it didn't happen that commonly outside of the couple combos that, like, I mean, I've talked about the Mountebank thing earlier, and, like, it feels really good when you're playing a Counting House deck against a Mountebank deck because Mountebank was, like, one of the, like, very top 10 out of 10 cards, and Counting House was really bad. And it's really fun to beat up on a really good card with a really bad card that's narrow, right? And, like one of my favorite cards, because it's narrow but sometimes has spots, Beggar. Beggar isn't a good card, but there are spots where it does things for you. You know, oh, I'm using it with Monastery and I get to trash them all the time. Or I'm playing with Gardens or whatever it is, right? Like there are enough little uses for it that I would be really sad if Beggar was gone. Counting House is rare enough that I'm not that sad, but I still liked it. I wish it were still around.
Navigator and Trade Route, weak cards. Trade Route even needed. Tokens in a mat.
Navigator, nobody's going to miss that card.
Yeah, and like, just look at the guy's hands on Navigator. That offends me almost as much as the monkey does.
Oh, look at that Sextant, like...
Yeah, but like he has 4 fingers on one hand and 3 fingers on the other hand.
Oh my
like,
god, I've never seen that before. It's
not okay. It's not okay.
How was this guy mauled and, like, did he lose a finger in some horrible sailing accident?
He must have. It's some horrible navigation accident. And then Ambassador's gone. It's another 10 out of 10 card that's gone. And, you know...
It made games really slow.
I think it's fine.
And...
If there were more than 2 players in the game...
Yeah, if there were more than 2 players in the game... like your deck's just bogged down, right?
I did design a 3-player kingdom with Ambassador in it that I think is really fun. However, the goal of that kingdom originally was to see how many times I could get someone to donate in a game.
Mm-hmm.
The record was 4.
That doesn't feel like that many. I feel like I've donated at least 3 and probably 4 times. Maybe. I
mean, donate Market Square, you donate 2 times right away, and then maybe junking, and there's a 3rd.
So donate Market Square was what I was thinking of, but I think there were also some games where Outpost was a thing, and like at some point I had $1 million and I just donated to draw 2 cards like every turn.
Wow. That seems really bizarre.
It was really bizarre.
And also, I don't think Donate's going to work that way anymore.
Yeah, since the million erratas, I can't keep anything straight. I don't know that would. I don't know whether that happens now or not. Besides, by the time you're listening to it, it's probably been errated like 4 more times.
Yeah, in 2348.
Right, exactly.
Donate is now called Farfignugan and does something completely different.
It's also sponsored by the new Coca-Cola. What would Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola Microsoft when they merged in 2162.
Yeah, now it tastes like electrons. Yeah.
Oh, this actually makes me think of something that I heard this week.
What have I done?
So I really like the taste of protons.
Yes.
Because if you think about it, what makes like acids taste sour, like vinegar or lemon juice or whatever, they taste sour because they're acidic, right?
Yes.
What makes acidic things acidic is it's
hydrochloride,
it's
HCl.
No. It's
ions?
the hydrogen ions. It's the H+ ions.
Oh, not the Cl. Yeah, it's just the hydrogen ions. Okay, yeah, got you.
What's a hydrogen ion? Hydrogen is a proton and electron. A hydrogen ion is just a proton. Protons taste sour.
I guess with that context, what you're saying is not ridiculous.
Well, that's the context I was given when I listened to it in a podcast earlier this week. And I thought it was brilliant.
There you go. Ambassador's gone.
Yeah.
And I think the game is probably better without it.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it got a bad rap, and sometimes it was miserable. So your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can say it's like a skill testing card. At the end of the day, even if you had all the skill in the world, sometimes your turn 3 and turn 4 don't go very well, and your game's over at the end.
Yeah, and I think
feel good.
I think both those things were true. I think it was very skill testing, and sometimes you just got steamrolled with basically no recourse, and it felt really bad.
Yeah. Rip. Yeah. So that's our podcast. Hope you liked it. There may be some more Dominion coming later this year, and we might do a podcast about that. I don't think I'm going to do a new power level poll anytime soon. Probably going to wait until after the next expansion.
Maybe.
But I'm excited. Yeah?
Maybe next time, after the next expansion or whatever, when we do one of these, we can report back on like Crystal Ball and...
Yeah, I'm looking forward to you putting Crystal Ball in your deck and playing it and seeing how great it is.
I'm looking
forward to putting Monkey in my deck.
And I
can't wait.
I'm looking forward to you putting Crystal Ball in your deck and realizing how not good it is.
I've put Crystal Ball in my deck a lot of times and been pretty happy with it every time.
Hot. Watch out for those videos on the YouTube once Adam posts. I don't know how many of these you've been recording, but I know you put at least 2 up already.
Yeah, see, like, I've been playing a lot of games recently, but it's hard to do commentary because my voice sucks.
Yeah.
And it's just now coming back and is decent a lot of the time, but also it's hard to find time when kids aren't around to record as well. So it's just really hard for me to make content still. I'm doing what I can, but it's just still really hard to do it. So.
Hey man, I enjoyed the video and a half I've watched, and I plan to watch the other half of that game with the $11 Astrolabe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really feel like if you bought an Astrolabe for $11, you probably made a mistake before then.
So I kind of feel like $11 is a great amount to buy an Astrolabe with, because clearly you need more buys.
Right. It's just that I probably could have gotten it earlier,
Maybe.
and it would have been better.
I don't think that's always true, though. Like, sometimes you really want to get your deck control first, and then you wake up with $11.
Yeah, I think Magnet was the only draw, so I might have had a lucky turn with Magnet, and then also...
It attracted the Astrolabe because it was made out of metal.
Probably. That's probably exactly what happened.
Also,
and then,
Astrolabe, because it's orange, you'll think it's an action, but it's not.
Oh yeah, rip.
Hey, but that's good for Magnate.
It is.
Hot synergy.
Because it's yellow. Hot synergy. So hot.
Because yellow and orange don't clash.
I mean, it does look a little weird now that I'm looking at it.
I haven't actually thought about it. I just...
Especially the bottom part where the orange is paler than on the top for some reason.
Whoa, I would have expected that, like... So it's like orange over yellow and then orange over yellow. I would have expected, like, the middle to be a color and then the outside to be a color instead of top and bottom. I don't know why.
This is all very unsettling. And what about Pirate? Is that the same way?
Pirate, I mean, I'm more used to that weird blue-orange interplay from, like, Caravan Guard, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's still just it's kind of unsettling.
It's always looked weird. Like, the orange and the blue, I don't know, it's like the hues are wrong. It looks like there's some candy that has those colors and looks very artificial.
Orange and blue?
Yeah. It's like very similar to these shades, too. I can't remember. I'm not a big candy lover.
I mean, M&M's, but...
No, it wasn't M&M's. It's like some almost a chalkier texture, like Sweet Tarts, but I don't think it's exactly Sweet Tarts.
Necco wafers?
Could be.
No, they don't have blue ones.
It's like this...
Smarties?
It's like this
Smarties
dark blue. Maybe
Smarties.
it's a little bit more purpley than this blue, but... I don't know.
I like candy.
It would be more like a Necco wafer, like that kind of a texture, but I don't know that it's a Necco wafer exactly. I don't know. Leave a comment in the comment section if you know what candy I'm talking about.
Please do. If you're still with us, congratulations. But I don't have any kind of reward for you, sorry.
Your reward is listening to the rest of the podcast.
And the Easter egg, which I think is probably funny.
It must be funny or you wouldn't have included it.
Yeah, there you go.
QED.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. We'll see you next time, whenever that is.
Smell you later.
Until then, pour one out for Seahag.
Yeah. I have all of your ratings, Jake, so we're ready to go.
Oh, thank you. I was going to write a script to generate them, but I'm glad that...
Well, it's just pretty easy, right? You take our average and then add 0.045. No,
right.
0.45.
And make sure the commentary... My response to every rating is wait for Adam to be done and then just say, calm down, Adam.